We'll be live in a second, and I'll get a confirmation that we're live. Good afternoon, YouTube. This is Stephen in deepest Wiltshire in England, and today I'm joined by Ira Blake of Light My Space. Hello, Ira.
Hello, Stephen. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I mean, it's sort of a grey day today, but we can hope that the sun comes out. Now, we're both members of the Wiltshire Business Club, and thank you to Roland Millward for organising all that. But can you tell us a little bit first about yourself and being in Wiltshire?
Sure. Well, I haven't been in Wiltshire that long. My husband and I moved to Wiltshire with our two cats back in 2010. So we've been here just about 7 years. And prior to that, we were living and working out of Hampshire, where we ran our own consultancy business for about 10 years. When we came to Porton, which is just outside Salisbury, we started to sort of rethink our lives and wanted to just get more closely connected into our local business community and basically do something a little bit different with our lives. I think we were both very fed up with working for big faceless organizations, a feeling that we weren't really having the impact that we would like to have. And it became very frustrating in the end with everyone trying to do more with less and therefore just not willing to commit the resources needed to make the changes they were asking us to make. So we got our heads together. Lighting has always been my husband James's passion. He's been doing it for many, many years for friends and then for family and then getting referrals and getting paid for it. And then sort of suddenly realizing that was a lot more fun than a day job. So we decided that now was the time. So we could get better connected with our local business and social community and also do something that we loved.
Right. Who came up with the name Light My Space?
That was really the two of us. We work very well together. We've run our own business for many years previously. And it was a bit of a sort of just a conversation over a glass of wine in front of the television saying, well, if we're going to do this, what would we call ourselves? And as is sort of the history with some of these things, we tossed things around and two heads were definitely better than one. So it kind of was a sort of sprung up between the two of us.
Right. And are you based in Salisbury?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Absolutely love it. It's a fantastic city, and we've been so lucky that the business community here particularly has just really welcomed us with open arms.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place to visit, so it must be fantastic to live, because I was there over the weekend and Christmas market and everything that goes with it.
Absolutely.
Now, we're now looking at 3 photographs. Would you like to talk about them? It should be on the screen below you.
Sure. These were photographs actually taken for us from a very, I think, well-known local photographer, John Rose. We were very fortunate that Salisbury Life, the sort of society type magazine here in Salisbury, kind of picked up on us and thought that we were quite interesting and that we weren't really like any other business. So they very kindly offered to do a feature on us, and John came to our house and we had a long conversation with him about what we were about, our business, what it is that we offered. And he sort of, he took some photographs of some of the example lighting that we have in our home, which actually also doubles up as our kind of mood board type. I hesitate to use the word show room because that does create certain expectations that this is going to be a very formal kind of place, and it isn't. But what we have done is try and inject a lot of different designs, different options, the 3 sort of some of the aspects of our business, which is the sort of sourcing a light. So you can see the blue fish sculpture there on the bottom. Yep. That was a commission that I had done from a wonderful couple who work out of Devon, and I've been a fan of their work for a very, very long time. So they actually designed and built this beautiful sculpture for me. And then we wanted to kind of find a way of highlighting it and lighting it so that it was a bit more of a feature and a bit more of a kind of a wow factor. So we found this moving light, which is supposed to replicate sort of the sea. And at night, obviously, or in the evening when this photograph was taken, the light really, I think, makes the whole thing a much more of a sort of a wow feature piece. So the other aspect really, again, for our business is around the design and planning area aspect. So we sit down with architects' plans and building plans and so on and look at how the space would actually work physically. Because again, I think the challenge is for a lot of people when you see a two-dimensional drawing, what that's going to look and feel like when you actually have a space that you're physically going to be in. And then the third aspect was a real design challenge for us. We had a number of different requirements, not least of all was the fact we had no power running to the ceiling. And so without a lot of upheaval and without a lot of sort of mess and destruction getting to the ceiling from upstairs, we wanted to create a light over a dining table that didn't have a ceiling point. Right. And the other challenge was that the table is actually extendable. So the feature actually moves. So you can actually unhook those lights, move them to different positions, and yet still have an equidistantly spaced set of lights over the table.
Right. Now, when it comes to the services that you offer, I'm just going to switch scenes again. And I'm going to bring you on camera, which will be good. Just give me a moment. This will work in a second. I'm just going to bring you onto camera and send it to live. The beauty of this is we can edit it afterwards. Yes. Right. Okay. Now you should in a second see that we've got the property visit and design brief. So how does the process start?
Generally, either, say we have a conversation, somebody calls or makes an inquiry, and they normally come to us with a problem or a particular issue that they want to solve. So we'll have a conversation with them about the space and what their problems and issues are. We'll tell them about then the process that we can start the conversation we then need to have about figuring out, perhaps visiting their property and seeing for ourselves. Sometimes even they will send us photographs initially just so that we can get a clearer idea of what what we might be able to do and what the logical next steps might be. So it all starts with a conversation. We then arrange, if required, to then go to the property and look at all the, I guess, constraints and also see what's possible for that kind of space. And then we go away. We'll write that up into a design brief, which actually is a sort of an agreement, if you like, and sets out the requirements that we have heard and listened to during those conversations to say, this is what you want us to solve. These are the things that you're interested in or not interested in. These are the kinds of things that we can go away and look at. And if you're happy with that, then we'll agree to move on to the next step, which is around the sort of design proposal.
So that's the, just a moment, give me a second. I'll get there in a second. Lighting, design and plan.
Yes.
Right, okay. And how does that move things forward?
Well, the lighting design, really, we need to spend more time at the property. We need to have, we'll sometimes bring in an electrician to look at what the loading is, make sure all the systems that are there fully understand what exists already, because what we don't want to do is obviously bring in some ideas and sort of potentially suggest solutions for people if their current sort of infrastructure can't support that. So we'll just do a sort of basic understanding to make sure that what we think is happening behind the scenes is actually there, and that's the right thing. And it also highlights any potential issues that need solving before the design can take place and so on. So we'll do a bit of a kind of an audit to see what's there already. We will then talk to our customers about how they want to use the space. So not what they do in it now, but if it's an open plan space and also if potentially they're having something renovated or an extension built or something like that, it's getting them to think forward about, well, what are you going to do in this space? How are you going to move through the space? What do you want to be able to do in terms of potentially different activities? So is there a space within the room you're looking at that you want to be able to read in? Is there another space where the kids might want to do that? Is there another space where you might be wanting to watch television and maybe you want to have the opportunity at some point to entertain or something like that? So all of those different activities require different levels and types of light. So we talk to them very much about how they want to use the space in the future. And then we actually help them or walk them around the space to say, well, okay, let's take you on a bit of a user journey. And software people and IT people will be very, very familiar with this terminology. But it's basically saying, well, when you come into the space, where would you be looking for your switches and so on and your controls to be? Where do you want to control light from? So if you want light on in this area of the room versus this area of the room, where would control that? And do you want to be getting up and down to turn off lights here and turning on lights there? All of those sorts of things. So it's really looking at how the usability sort of function of the lighting might work. And once we've got that piece in place, we then move on to talking to them about the kind of styles that they're interested in, the aesthetics, if you like, any particular features that they might want to highlight, anything architectural they want to sort of, pick up on or highlight in the room. And then also, if there's a requirement or a need to really have something a bit more of a statement piece or structural type lighting. So all of those conversations happen during that sort of design proposal visit. And then we will have set up idea boards and so on, so we can exchange ideas with customers. They can put their ideas in. We can find either alternatives or make other suggestions to them. And then we will actually talk about where all those different pieces go, how they'll all work together. And that then is your design proposal. So at that point, they really do have a very detailed set of map and plans about how their lighting is going to work and how it's going to look.
Brilliant. Now, one of the things that decides things is basically when people give you feedback, isn't it? Now, yes. I'm going to show on the screen feedback that came from a small business project, Cafe and Tea Rooms in Salisbury. Mm-hmm. And what work did you do there?
This was for a small business owner who had one existing business that he'd built up and successful, and was now looking to, or just very recently opened a second set of premises, and both premises were in very old buildings, so he was actually very limited in terms of the amount of any kind of sort of structural work he could do, holes he could make, all of those sorts of things. So there were certain things that we had to be very, very conscious of that would limit the choices that he had around the type of lighting that he could introduce. There was also some very specific areas that were very much in shadow. So based on how the existing lighting was already set out, there were some very shadowy areas around the edges of the room, which he wanted to use to display products. So although he was the main part of his business was the sort of the service element of providing coffees and teas and food and so on, he also had a sort of a deli element to his business where people could purchase stuff to take away. And he wanted to be able to sort of showcase those products, make them far more visible than they currently were. So we went in to help him to sort of create some, if you like, some very environmentally friendly light that would have very little impact, if any, on the actual structure of the premises, and that would actually perform that function for him.
Right. So what you're providing is a very bespoke service, which makes the most of the surroundings and lights everything to its best.
That's absolutely right. I mean, every premise is going to be slightly different, and even if the problem is the same, the constraints might be different, the actual area itself might be different. And of course, there are the preferences as well of the person who owns that premises as well, to say, actually, I like that, or I don't like that, I want that, or I don't want that. So there are lots and lots of variables to sort of, at play that we have to really understand. And the only way we can do that is by really listening to our customers.
And that's what every business should do, is to listen, because it's the feedback, isn't it, that actually makes the customer happy because they've been listened to, and gives you a better idea of what's actually going to be acceptable. It's been fascinating. Now, as I said, we're both members of the Wiltshire Business Club, and again, thanks to Roland. And that brings a whole number of businesses together, isn't it, from different areas. Have you managed to make contacts within the group?
We have, and it's been, say, I mean, there's over 1,000 members in the group, which is fantastic. And again, everyone is very welcoming and very open, very willing to share both their experiences and their expertise as well. And we've made a lot of really, really great connections. Very early on, we consume services as well as a business. So very early on, we connected with a lady called Nikki Kinton, who did all of our credit control processes for us and credit management policies and what have you for us, which has been fantastic, because that's a huge weight off of our minds in terms of making sure that we protect ourselves financially and from our legal obligations as well. So there's, in terms of consuming services and finding people, it's been terrific for that. We're also made connections very much with what we call complementary businesses. So people like high-end kitchen and bathroom companies, builders, architects, interior designers, all of those people who are working with a similar customer base to us. And when and I say one of the services we offer is when a set of architects plans comes in, that we can come in and give some very specialist, very sort of targeted advice just about the lighting, which an architect can't necessarily do. And they can't do that because they have 101 other things and other dimensions to be thinking about. And they don't have the time or necessarily the inclination to be specialists in lighting. So that's where we can help them. And that helps them, I think, in the services they can offer to their customers. But also, I think it's that sort of peace of mind for them as well, that they're giving it's putting their work in the best light, so to speak, excuse the pun. And they're giving the best that they can to the customers, and they look good too. So it's actually working to be a very sort of synergistic kind of relationships, and say the Wiltshire Business Club has been hugely useful in terms of getting people to understand who we are and what we do and how we can help each other.
Brilliant, because it starts off as virtual, and as you say, it becomes real when you meet and start to work with people, and that's networking. That's the magic of networking. And it's not overtly saying to people, it's letting people know what you can do and how you can help them. And
Yes.
When they need your services, they approach you. And that's the key to it. You've got to become the go-to person. And in this case, the go-to person for lighting. And Ira, it's been a pleasure talking. Do you have any thoughts that you'd like to give out to Wiltshire Business Club? And to everybody, really.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for welcoming us. And again, as I said, everyone has been so sharing and so willing to support. And there is that huge sense that everybody wants everyone to succeed, and that, we can all succeed together by supporting one another. And I think that's a really great, philosophy to have. And we have certainly benefited from that. And I hope that we can sort of give back and contribute to other businesses as well. I think one of the big challenges that we have, and I don't think we're alone in this, is that as a sort of, completely new kind of offering, doing something very, very specialist, one of the big challenges is actually just getting people to know about you and what it is that you can offer and what it is that you can do.
Yeah.
And there was, just to make a point about this, there was some really interesting survey data that came out earlier this year, and over 7,000 people across Europe were surveyed in this particular exercise. And what it showed is that there is a huge appetite across Europe for people to be investing in sort of home improvements. So this isn't just lighting, but this is just completely across the board. And lighting, to be very specific, was the second biggest category that homeowners were willing to invest in to make improvements between 2017 and 2018. That's a huge number of people. And yet 69% of the people who were surveyed and said they wanted to invest in home improvements are frustrated because they can't find the products and services that they need. So I think this is a real learning for us, is to say, well, actually, it's not that the willingness isn't there, it's not that the interest isn't there or the appetite, but it's how do we get ourselves known? And I think the best way that I've found that works for us, and I think I'd encourage everybody in the Wiltshire Business Club to do, is just network your socks off. Just, tell people about your products, listen to what they can do, figure out, because the more voices that are talking about the products and services that benefit the same groups of people and the same target demographics, I think the stronger the proposition is. So the more that we can sort of support one another, the more we can actually say, oh, I know this person and I know about their work and I trust them. I know they could do a good job. I think then again we all benefit from that, and we very much are playing and want to play our part in that too for other businesses.
Right. Well, to everybody who's watched today, thank you. And Ira, big thank you. That was amazing. And
thank you, Stephen. I hope we've shown that, as we very truly believe, there is definitely more to light. Please come and talk to us if you need anything.
Wonderful. And to everybody who's watched us live on YouTube, thank you, and take care. And Ira and I will see you live soon. And you can check out Ira on Like My Space, and there's a Facebook page and on Twitter as well. The links are on the screen, and they'll be in the posts afterwards, so you can get in contact and carry on networking. And if you need any lighting advice at all, then get in touch with Ira. And if you need networking advice, join the Wiltshire Business Club. So, from Ira and me, it's goodbye for now.
Thank you.